Oh my goodness. It's time for Hangoutlander. You guys, welcome to the 6th season of this fucking horrible show. And by horrible show, I mean Hangoutlander. That's what I mean. I definitely don't mean the show we're here to talk about. But anyway, how is everyone? Welcome. I'm Beth. I am the owner and founder of the Cool Table, co-owner, co-founder, and I am here with Andy and Lachey. Tonight, ladies, say hello.
Hi.
Hello.
So happy to have y'all here. You have no idea. Hello, everybody in the chat. Alicia and Vicky and Joni and Dawn and Shelly and Sheila. Shelly and Sheila, you're always here. And you're always together. You're always just one on top of each other in the chat. And I'm always saying somebody's name wrong. Allison, Diane. Wow. Hello, everyone. I'm so glad you're here.
Shirley Muse is here. She'll always have something funny to say.
Oh, yeah.
It is time to discuss Outlander Season 6, Episode 1, Echoes. I have 0 notes. And I don't mean that I don't have notes about the show. I mean, I wrote nothing down.
Good.
Freewheeling. We love
That's
that.
right. That's right. And I also wrote no recap. So I don't even have like a lot invested in what happened. This is a whole new me is what I'm saying. Like this is an entirely different type of Outlander coverage that I'm doing here. This is fly by the seat of my pants. I did not watch this episode until last night.
Wow. It's more fresh for you then. I watched it Sunday morning.
Wow.
I also watched it Sunday. Yeah.
I went in for the early viewing because it was supersized. So I was like, I need to sleep on a Sunday night. Mama's got to teach on Monday. So.
Oh, it comes out on Sundays, not Saturday night?
It's, Sunday night.
You really went in early.
I did. Yeah. I was like, I gotta get in 80 minutes. I would be taking my nap by the end.
It was 80 minutes?
I fast forwarded through a lot of it, so.
I didn't realize it was that.
It didn't feel like 80 minutes to me.
God, I did not realize.
Supersized. It was 80 minutes.
Oh, that's right. The season is supposed to be like what? Short, less amounts of episodes. Are they then supposed to be longer? Is that what it is?
Yeah, less episodes, but like longer episodes.
Well, I did notice a couple of scenes that I felt were just in there for the love of the game, like Mrs. Bug and Lizzie and Mr. Bug like fighting over the Thanksgiving table.
Yes.
Like where the pie is in one place and then Mr. Bug comes in and brings in the green beans. And I was like, this is definitely like should have been on the cutting room floor. I appreciated it. It's fine. But it was just like definitely not something they would have had in the show prior to it being like a supersized episode.
Shout out to Amy because that is some Ridge shit. And she would have, I'm sure she loved that part.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, we have not been given any idea of the personality of Mr. and Mrs. Bug. You know,
I was shocked that
unless you're a book reader, you have no idea of the importance of these people and you know what they mean to this family or anything. They just are there like other people, you know, are on the ridge.
So actually that's interesting, Lachey, because I was surprised. I mean, but Mrs. Bug has been there, but she hasn't done anything.
Right.
And so for them to be like, I mean, she had a couple of scenes in this episode where I was like, wait, I thought we like excised the bugs. Now all of a sudden they're back. Like, why? If you've excised them previously, don't bring them back.
Right.
Now.
Right.
I don't
yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Now, she had kind of a prominent spot in the episode. I mean, you saw more Mrs. Bug than you saw Jemmy, who I felt like was just completely absent to the point where I was almost like, did they actually go back through the stones last season and we just missed it? The children are missing. And I thought that was funny.
Yeah. Well, you know, they went on an adventure with Grandpierre, but, you know, I don't think Jimmy was with them. It was only Marsali's 3. So
I can't tell who is supposed to be who. They should have been more like specific about that. Purely Amused just said all she's done, Mrs. Bug, is complain about Claire baking bread and growing mold. That's it. And there's too much plot to deal with them. I mean, it's interesting that they have a Mrs. Bug and a Mr. Bug just because there's so many people that seem to literally live at the big house. Lizzie lives there. Kezzy and Josiah or whatever his name is seems like they all live on the property instead of it being like a tenant situation where they only come together for certain things. And I think that that's really odd. It just looks like it's a big commune in their house.
It does. It absolutely does, which is why I was like, oh, wow, the bugs, you know, in this whole group of people that just happen to be on the ridge. Look, there they are, which, you know, like I said, I don't really feel like we saw them a lot before. I don't know what that portends.
Look like
Yeah.
Tara.
No idea.
Jody Decker just said it looked like Tara. Agreed with the porch and everything, man. It is ostentatious to say the least.
You know what really caught my attention this time? I'm sorry, I said it on Twitter. Those goddamn stables.
Yes.
Like, what?
That was crazy. The stable.
Oh my God.
Was crazy.
All of it is. Alicia just said the same thing. The big house looks like a small town these days. What are those roads and things? It looks like, honestly, it looks like they're coming up on a plantation. Like it's not a plantation. Yes. Doesn't look like a plantation home, but it certainly looks like they have that much wealth. The same amount of wealth as you know, colonials who would have, especially in North Carolina, have had that much land and that big of a place. I mean, what's his name? Alan Christy walks in and says, you live like a king. And he is not wrong. The big house is too ostentatious. We said this last season. It's too fucking big. It's too nice. They have too much dark pigmented paint. There's too much wallpaper.
Did you see the glass door, the glass in the door and the nice little table and chair set up, you know, on the porch right next to it. In fact, there wasn't there glass in like both doors, like when Rodney came out and everything. It was like, oh wow,
there was a window. There was a window with really nice glass. And the glass doors are ridiculous. Like the porch is ridiculous. If it was a colonial home, you would come out the front door and be on the stoop.
Right. Exactly.
It looks nothing like what it should look like. And
then
it's
the
frustrating.
question is, how are they able to do all of that if they are mere farmers and still helping people get set up on the ridge?
Right.
They don't have a plantation or servants working like that. Everyone is working to feed themselves and maybe make a little bit of extra money. And Claire does some doctoring on the side, but it's not like it's an open practice because it's what, the 1700s. Women didn't do that back then. So.
Right. And she's bartering her services. It's not like, it's not sustainable at all. And Allison just said the production design budget is too high and the hair and makeup budget is too low. This is the most accurate. There's no other critique for Outlander. This is it. Allison, you have won the award. Absolutely. That is exactly correct. Like, it's almost like, and I think they have a new designer now, right? It's not John Gary Steele. It's someone else.
It's someone new. I don't know who, though.
I don't either. I don't pay attention to any of that anymore. The fact that I know John Gary Steele's name really chaps my hide. So, like, it's almost like they were looking at season 2 going, oh no, we have all of this Parisian stuff. We're in Prague. We're doing we've got to recreate, Louis the 16th's, whatever. What's the freaking palace in Paris? I don't even know. Versailles or whatever. We got to do the Versailles gardens. We got to do all of this stuff. Now we can't just go and start making hovels again. We don't get to use the castles in the mountains of Scotland. So at the very least, we're going to have an outdoor set that we can be proud of because we don't get to use, whatever that castle was, Dune Castle anymore. So that's what it's like. It's like we have to show out in some fashion. And I would prefer that they were showing out in hair and makeup.
Yeah.
Vicky, there was macrame last season. Macrame. I was even actually kind of surprised in terms of their wealth that Claire's able to get like all of these supplies together for the Christies. How do you have like extra linens?
Right.
Like that, like enough.
Exactly.
And she mentions that they're going to have to like scrimp and save or whatever to function like that. But I even thought to myself, how do you have it?
He said, and
Well-
we saw that he came with a whole, with more fisher folk. As he said, he brought more people with him. So it's not just the Christies that they're outfitting.
Yeah, it was like a whole other community.
They also don't have the whiskey. Like you think, okay, like maybe they
Right.
have alcohol. They're like bootlegging and like, making some pseudo moonshine. But like, no, they don't have it. He even like makes a point in this episode to be like, less of the whiskey.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
They no money making, and they didn't do the gold plot with Jocasta last season or season 4.
Yeah,
So
but
there's
who
not
knows
even
now,
any gold.
But now the bugs are here. So now I'm thinking maybe that's what they're bringing. I mean, because, okay, ready? They took the sexual assault from book 6 and put it in season 5. Other than the big thing with the Christy, that's it for season 6. It was, right? For book 6, right, Lachey?
I haven't read it.
I know you haven't. That's why I asked Lachey.
Exactly. I don't remember exactly what, like everything kind of blurs for me now with the books. So I'm actually not sure. I was thinking the other thing that would probably come up would probably be the Roger theme with the widow, with Amy.
Well, that obviously came up, and I'm sorry, I couldn't even look at that character. And I'm sorry if anyone is reading book 9 and like spoiler alert, but I could not look at Amy because I just kept thinking about a bear.
Okay. Okay. So I want to ask the people in the chat, tell us in the chat what you think are, like, we've got 8 episodes. We've had one already. The Christies have been introduced. What do you think are the major plot points that are going to be headed from the book into this season? So we have the whole thing with the Christies. We know that that's upcoming. Even I haven't read the books and I know what happens with the Christies. Also, it was super telegraphed in this episode. Not Malva so much, like what she's going to do, but sort of very much telegraphed. But what do you think it is? What do you think are the major plot points going to be? Alicia just said, I just recently read it. Christie's, Claire's arrest by the Browns, and Ferguson the print shop. I don't know what that Ferguson the print shop means. Somebody explain.
Oh, that is definitely going to happen. They're
definitely
set that up. Fergus being, the drunk right now, being depressed and everything, and the baby that's coming. There's a whole storyline behind that, so that is probably going to happen.
Okay. Oh,
yes.
Dawn said, I can't do it. You have the control, Beth. Dawn said the threesome. That was telegraphed big time.
Yeah,
I was like, jeepers creepers. Like, could you have made that any more obvious? Can't film a thought. So let's film Lizzie staring at.
Okay. So Lizzie gets down and dirty with both Josiah and Keziah.
Correct.
How are they going to film that with the same dude? Paul Gorman can't be in 2 places at once. You gotta choreograph a sex scene anyway. How do you choreograph it with the same person in 2 places?
They'll have one of them. You'll see the back.
Okay.
And they'll just sandwich her in there. Like,
well, good for Lizzie. That's the dream, Lizzie. Just
I agree.
That is really the dream. Okay, so did they kill Bonnet last season? Yes, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I have one other thing that may happen. I don't know because they're pretty much going for Lizzie and the twins fairly quickly. But there was a storyline with the German family, their son and Lizzie, and the whole syphilis thing, and that she was engaged to the son ended up having syphilis, broke the engagement. The mother came, got up in Claire's face. Claire had a PTS episode and freaked the fuck out all over her, and
oh wow,
that's actually that's a good. That would have been really good. I don't know why. I hope they do that one because
it doesn't look like
really
it. They haven't said anything about Manfred. They haven't said anything about him. They
haven't introduced the character.
They jumped straight to Lizzie and the twins.
Yeah, so that would be good though. Maybe one of the twins will have some. But they don't have a mother to like get mad at Claire. So Dawn said, oh, we already said that. I meant to click on a different one. Where was it? Oh, Mandy. Vicky said Mandy. So, okay. But Henry Henri how do you say his name? On Henry Christian's birth. um, so he is going to be born probably in the next episode.
Next episode, yeah.
Yeah. And he is a little person.
Correct.
Okay. So do we think that they're going to do that?
Yes.
Or not? Okay.
Oh God, I wish.
I'm not saying they'll do it well. I don't think they'll do it well, but I think that they are. Yeah, I think so.
My question about that, since I haven't read the book, is what's the point? Like, is Claire worried about his survival?
Fergus is bothered by it. He grew up in a brothel. He saw all manners of people, including little people. He saw how they were discriminated against and treated when he was growing up in Paris. He feels like his son will, have that same type of life, especially since he himself is handicapped. And that is, kind of what the drinking is about. Not that he knows about, the baby right now.
Okay.
But just the fact, I think that he couldn't help or save them from the Browns attack last season or whatever. Has made him feel emasculated, I guess. And that is why he is, tipping the way he's tipping. and
abusing Marsali.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This is not, is that in the book that he's abusing her?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh. Great.
Different order, but yes.
Ridiculous. So he's already drinking. Again, you're like you said, from the Browns attack, not being able to stop that, feeling emasculated. So he's already there. And then Henry Christian's going to be born and it's going to escalate even more. I don't see how it could escalate.
Yeah,
more,
I guess. He does. Yeah. And I think he said there was this one, like a line that I remember from the book that like when he was born, they said he's talking to Claire maybe. And he was like telling her, she was like, I don't know why you're so bothered by this. Like, but and then he was like telling them the brothel story. And at the end of that whole story, he basically said, he's as useless as I am. And it's really it's a line that I very much remember from the book.
Yeah,
it's very sad.
That's true. Yeah.
Oh, that's awful. So Purely just said Fergus is depressed and becomes a printer. And I might have to take the crown and give it to you because that is such a great sentence. Just a really, really great sentence. Allison said, I quit reading at the Fiery Cross, but I feel like they're heading somewhere bad with Fergus, which is pissing me off. I also quit reading at the Fiery Cross, but the fun thing about being part of the Outlander fandom is it'll all get spoiled for you.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And did she have sex with both twins at the same time or was it separately?
Separately.
Okay.
But I feel like, come on, man, you got to make it a little spicy for us. Like,
I really think that Lizzie deserves, a DP. Let's just say that. That's what she
I would not be surprised if I've always thought that it probably was both of them. Once she realized what was going on.
I mean, yeah, once she realized it was both of them, like,
yeah.
This is what happens. She thought it was Josiah until she tried calling his name and he didn't answer. And then she realized she was sleeping with them both. Yep. What a whore.
They are identical twins.
Also, nothing about even identical twins have like different appendages. Like their fingers are different. Their head, like come on, Lizzie.
I'll have to take your word for it, Beth. I've never had sex with identical twins.
I haven't either, but like I meant like their fingers. Come on. They're different. But like still, like there's too much candlelight on Fraser's Ridge for that to be an accurate thing. Like they can see each other perfectly fine. Let's see. Mr. Weymouth, so Lizzie's dad should be back. I don't think that's going to happen. But maybe. Alicia said it's part of Fergus's storyline, so maybe, I don't know. What else do we think is coming up? Anybody else have anything that's coming up? You guys have been talking a lot. Anyway, it happens in a barn, so there's no candles.
And that giant barn,
Lizzie deserves it.
That giant barn is just perfect.
Oh God, it is. Maybe that's what it's for. I didn't even think about it. The stable's the barn. You're right.
Well, you know it's going to have 17. It's got 17 lanterns already. They have so much oil and they have so much like fuel to waste. They've got glass hurricane lanterns everywhere. There'll be fine. It'll be brightly lit. And at the same time, Jamie will be wearing a goddamn helmet on his head. What was that wig? What?
Which one? At Ardsmuir, that was. I was like, oh my God, look at his forehead. Even with all the hair, I was like, oh my God.
Okay, so the point of wigs, Outlander production people, is for you to be able to make things consistent, because you can just take the wig off their head, put it on a little mannequin head, and it stays there. And then you put it back on their head. And I realize it's artistry, right? You got to lace front, you got to glue it down, you got to do all this stuff. And it's hard and it is artistic. But the point of it is consistency. So when Jamie had a wig in Ardsmuir in season 3, you didn't keep that wig on the shelf for season 6 for potential flashbacks? Why not?
That wig to me was inexcusable.
It really was.
I would just also like to say that I was watching the show with my mom because she enjoys it and I enjoy it as well. And that 20-minute first scene, I mean, we were about halfway through it and my mom turned to me and was like, what is this? Like, where are we? What time is it? I don't remember any of this. And I was like, well, Mom, they didn't explain this back then and they need to like refresh your memory. So we legitimately needed a 20-minute scene to be like, remember that time Jamie was in prison? He's a good leader and this guy wasn't. And I had to like literally like explain it.
And they're Freemasons too.
Also, we became Freemasons.
Also, they have little secret handshakes. And really, is that all it takes? You tell me the secret handshake and I make whatever building I want a lodge and then I just ask people to join. That's all it is? That's all that it takes to be a Freemason?
I don't know. They're super secret, aren't they?
It can't be. As a member of a sorority, I know it can't be, but my God, that is just horrible.
So I thought that the beginning of the Ardsmuir stuff was interesting. I really wish that they had shown that Jamie had just gotten there or something. Like, it wasn't clear that
It took me a minute to figure it out. I was like, wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it should have started with that in some way, like it being his early days.
Dropping him off?
Yes, because I didn't understand why the men weren't already following him.
Right.
But props that they got, like, what's his name back?
Yeah.
Like the actors that were in Voyager, that were in Ardsmuir, the one that died or whatever. So I'm glad they got those guys back. But anyway, I thought that it did drop us into a situation in Ardsmuir that didn't make any sense to me. I didn't realize that it was like prior to Jamie taking charge. And it would have been better if they had cleared that up. And it was slow, but like I said, and I made a TikTok about while I was watching it, I was making a TikTok, and I love the Scotland stuff more than what happens in the Americas. So even though Ardsmuir wasn't particularly compelling, I was compelled. I wanted to know what was going to happen. I was worried about the guy that was half blind. I was compelled by it for the most part, even though it was slow. And I don't think we would have gotten all of that if it hadn't been an extra long episode.
Once I realized what they were doing, because as you were, I was totally confused and was like, what is happening here? Mm-hmm. Once I figured it out, then I actually enjoyed that part of it. But I was like, this is taking a long time to establish why they don't like each other. This is taking a very long time.
Yeah, I liked it. And I thought that where they had them, I mean, I didn't understand what their job was, like moving rocks, but like, I guess that's the point. So, but that set, like that outdoor space that they found, I thought was quite lovely. I was like, oh, that's pretty.
That's not really what I mean about the Scotland stuff. I mean the politics of them being in Ardsmuir and the Protestant Catholic England, like their situation is more interesting to me than what happens to them in the Americas. I don't find the burgeoning revolution as interesting in Outlander as I do in a show like Turn. Right. Like, I don't think that their predicament is compelling in the Americas, whereas Jamie's predicament in Ardsmuir, having just come off the Culloden battlefield, having still being with people who are Jacobites and identifying that way, and having a Highlander identify as a Protestant who is, preaching at them and siding with the English, like that's a compelling storyline to me, far more so than Jamie deciding whether or not he's going to be an Indian agent. I just don't find that interesting. So that's what I mean by Scotland being compelling. It's more compelling narratively.
You mean you weren't taken by the stream?
No. Also, the rock placement was dumb as shit. They looked like they were carrying like plutonium or something so fucking heavy. And it is so dumb. These are Highlanders. The rocks could not have possibly been so onerously heavy. They were this big. It was dumb. And then he says something like, "We can't be real stonemasons." And I'm like, are y'all building a wall? Nothing is clear. I could not believe how small the rock, and the rock pile was small. It's like they had only been doing it for one day. Look, I have a pool out here, and there's about 3 feet of space from the sidewalk of the pool to my back fence. And in that 3 feet of space is river rock. And they're about that big. And me and my 11-year-old put them out there several years ago. It isn't hard. Bonkers. That was bonkers.
It was. It absolutely was. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Good job, Matt B. Roberts. I really believed that was some hard fucking labor for those Highlander men. Ridiculous.
One more day of hard labor.
But it does introduce us to Tom Christy, who is, I have to say it, one of the most cartoonish villains we've had, I think. Very different than Stephen Bonnet, obviously very different than Blackjack. And in a lot of ways, very different from the Browns. And I think that, what's the other this Brown's name? The one that's still alive? Richard? Is it Richard Brown? No, Lionel's the one that died.
Lionel died.
Richard.
I was correct.
Yeah, you got it.
So Richard, I think, is the most cartoonish of villains in this episode. He looks ridiculous. All of his motivations are telegraphed in every gesture and every look and everything that he's doing. And it's really not normal for somebody to be that villainous and that out for you, and for Jamie and he to just be glaring at one another. And yet Tom Christy is just as cartoonish, like the religious, zealotry of all of that. Like it just, I don't like it.
Well, it's probably over the top because it is Outlander, produced by Matthew V. Roberts. But that is true to kind of, his character. He's supposed to be a zealot in all of this, and, not all of the things that he did, not drinking, not whatever Claire is doing, he doesn't necessarily approve of it because she's a woman, and, women are supposed to, take a step back, whatever. All of that is kind of true to what the character is, but of course it's overdone. But I did want to say about Richard, whatever accent he is supposed to be doing, I wish he would stop. It's horrible. It's horrible.
I can't even think of what it is.
Supposed to be backwoods.
I can't think of it either.
It is so annoying. It is. And when he was on that horse talking to Ian and Alan, I was like, what in the hell? What is wrong with you and what you're saying?
I didn't notice his accent.
I didn't either. And I mostly because I'm like, oh, here comes that guy and he's going to twirl his mustache one more time. Like, it just made no sense. Like, oh, yes. Like when they brought back the dead body of his brother, they even flashed back to this to make it very clear. He was like, yes, well, he did kind of kidnap your wife and rape her. So like, fair enough, I suppose. but then all of a sudden, like, I don't know, he seemed quite, I mean, of the Browns, if any of them could have been called reasonable, like the most reasonable of
Sure.
them. And now he has gone like completely
Yeah.
like turned around and was like, well, I guess I'll just take up the asshole mantle that was left by my brother. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know.
They need a very obvious villain, and it's due to poor writing. I mean, because in the flashback, you're completely right. Richard is far more reasonable. He's like, "Okay, yeah, I understand why you're doing this until I don't. Until, until something needs to be visited upon you. This was justice for the most part." And
Mhm.
so if he's going to be reasonable and understanding in last season, for him to immediately push into, here's my committee of safety, and we're going to be I'm going to start shooting at your nephew and tell him that he can't dress like an indigenous person because I'm going to come after him every time he does, and I'm going to come up on your property and accuse you of horrible things. Like, there's too much in one episode and too much of a flip of the lid for it not to just be off-putting and grating. He should have eased his way into whatever villainous activities he's going to have. Instead, he was out there twirling his mustache and putting kids on a railroad tie.
Yeah, like so Alicia said he does that in the book, and I think that's part of the problem. Like, that's why like Tom Christie, I guess, didn't really bother me, because like that's literally verbatim dialogue that was from the book. Like, I wasn't, yes, he's ridiculous, but I'm like, well, he's like that in the book, so like whatever, I guess,
Mhm.
like, I don't know. They just, yeah, it just seems like if he had, if Ian had been somewhere like later on, or if Ian had been doing anything, like too close to the Brown lands, and then they were like, oops, thought you were thought you
Yeah.
were one of those, like, but he purposely, like, Ian was like, who I am. So it kind of ruined it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. There had to be something to antagonize this guy a little.
Yeah.
Make
I
something
mean,
up, adapt
they
it.
said it.
Yeah.
Like, we like, oh,
They said it,
Try
but
to
maybe they should have shown it. The fires or whatever they were talking about. Cabins being burnt and stuff like that. They kind of had that one line in there, but I
Well,
think the stuff that was happening with Ian and Alan and the group it just overwhelmed that. So I think you even missed all of that.
yeah, here's what Beth in the writer's room would have suggested in terms of introducing all of this and giving us the motivation for Brown to be such a dickhead. You have to introduce the Christies and their fish folk. They're going to be in the area that Brownsville is in before they head to Fraser's Ridge. Have them clash with the Browns, whether or not they're the ones who set the fires or they are around when the fires are set, or we see the scene where Alan steals the gunpowder horn.
Right.
Introduce the conflict between the fish folk and the Browns, and then have it not really resolved. Let the Christies and everyone kind of get away, and the Browns wonder who these idiots are that were in their space, and then have the Christies show up at Fraser's Ridge, have them be accepted, have them start to settle down, and the Browns find out about it and adjust their thinking to the Frasers set them up for this, or the Frasers are responsible for what they did to us. Otherwise, you introduced two villains who have no connection to one another, and then you gave them a connection at the end of the episode with the gunpowder horn.
Dumb.
Which was heavy-handed and sloppy.
Oh, it was so dumb. I'm like, really? This dude is stealing this powder horn? That's what it's called. Why? Why would he do that? Is he just like a kleptomaniac or something? Is that something that we're developing later? It's dumb.
Diane said Brown and Christy are also way too similar, which I agree. Thought Christy should be younger. Also, he looked younger at the Ridge than he did 20 years earlier in prison. Well, hard labor, all that rock moving. Jamie didn't look great then either.
Well, listen now, but he wasn't doing all of the rock moving. He was sitting there watching everyone else do the rock moving and, buddying with the soldiers and, ratting out people and that type of thing. So
maybe the Scotland sunshine does not agree with him, but North Carolina does. But I thought it would have been better had Tom Christie been slightly younger. He does look a little bit too old. And I agree. He looks like the guy who's playing Brown. I mean, they don't actually look alike, but they're styled so similarly and their coloring is the same. So it's difficult to differentiate them, and especially their acting very similar. They're both just nothing but antagonistic towards Jamie, whereas Christy should be doing everything he can to ingratiate himself. He's not trying, and that's frustrating. But they definitely should have introduced the Christies via the Browns to give the Browns some reason to be antagonistic in the first place. And they didn't, and it was sloppy.
Right.
Vicky said it was attempted development for Alan as foreshadowing to his true character. And I understand that and agree. Again, I just think it was sloppily done. I also, going back to the way that Tom Christie looks, Alan and Malva look alike. I buy them as siblings. So in my mind, Tom Christie's wife, may she rest in peace, wherever the fuck she is, looks exactly like Jenny Murray, because that's who Malva looks like.
Oh, like exactly. Actually, you're right.
Yeah.
And that's like not normal. Like this, like, where is she, by the way? Where's their mother?
Oh, she died.
How? Like, he makes it sound like he killed her.
I think she was, I want to say she was burnt at the stake, but she was accused of being a witch or something.
Well, there you go. That's what happens when you're in a cult.
That's not how she died. Really?
I don't remember if it was that or whether or not they hung her, but it wasn't like, it wasn't.
Vicky said it's a VD. She had a venereal disease.
No.
No, I don't think it was that. No, it was something, because I remember he burnt all of Malva's
Jewel Thief remembers something I do not remember. Tom is not their biological father?
I'd buy that too.
Definitely not Malva's. I'm not sure about Alan.
Okay, Alicia says she was tried for witchcraft.
Yeah.
So that's what he means when he says you don't want to end up like your mother. And of course, that makes sense for him being very anti-Claire.
Oh, and someone I saw said that she was hanged. Jewel Thief says she was hanged. So, yeah.
Okay, so Jewel Thief, thank you for being aware of what happens in the books. Tom is their uncle through their father. And Purely Muse says she doesn't understand this because that book is so boring.
But I really thought that Alan was his and Malva wasn't.
But they have this. That's what Alicia said. Alicia said she was tried as a witch, and Tom is not Malva.
Her. Yeah.
But the mother is the same mother.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I think when Tom went to Ardsmuir, that she ended up getting with his brother.
Oh.
And that's where Malva came from.
How many years ago was Ardsmuir? 15?
20. Because they said 1733 in Ardsmuir, right? And then they said 53 and 73. I don't remember.
No, it doesn't matter. It's ridiculous.
I think it was 20
so Malva is quite young. She's like barely, if she's legal at all, she's barely.
Well, yeah, I mean, I get that she's young. I just was trying to figure out like how
the writing for her. The writing for her got spicy right away. Like they were like, she was like talking about the devil already, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah, the phosphorus thing was. Yeah. I got it immediately. Like I knew as soon as she said Lucifer, I was like, she's going to think that phosphorus is of Satan. She's going to think it's Lucifer, and immediately she starts talking about it. I'm like, what is happening? But I like the religious zealotry aspect of it. I just don't think that. I don't buy that they're religious zealots. For some reason, I'm not sold on it. I don't know if it's their countenances or what we've seen of it so far. It looks to me like Tom Christie is faking it. Maybe because they showed it in Ardsmuir first.
I'm sure that's the way it's written. It's got to be written because his character is supposed to be that he's very stern, very religious. I can't remember what they called him, but just like. Yeah, I don't know enough about religion to really classify them, but they are very strict, very down the line, no pomp, no, affectations, no nothing. Everything is just dry and boring and
very puritanical.
Thank you.
Puritanical. Yeah. But I don't like it. again, it looks like he doesn't really believe it.
Right.
I've seen plenty of, um, religious zealotry, even in this time period, and of different sorts, right? You have like the Quaker meetings, and you've got Puritans, and you've got, your mainstream Presbyterians at this time frame, and you've got, Anglicans, which is, your George Washingtons and all of that. And they're not zealots. So if you've got a zealot Protestant in the backwoods of North Carolina who came out of Catholicism in the Highlands of Scotland, he is going to have a very much more specific type of Anglicanism. And the fact that this guy isn't doing any of that, and he's a very dry, it just doesn't seem like he buys it. Like even the fact that they were using like a fresh loaf of bread for communion. Were they doing communion, or were they just eating and blessing it? I couldn't tell, but I was like, I don't buy this. Like he would have been like, no, we need dry unleavened crackers for this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it was supposed to be something like communion or blessings, or I don't know. That kind of didn't go over so well. Like what exactly is the point here?
And Malva didn't seem like she believed it. I think that she's at an age, and the character should be at a place where she is wide-eyed with zealotry as well, and is actually maybe even scandalized to meet people who don't think the way that she does. And she seemed more sly, and I found that
she is very sly. And I don't know how they're going to show it throughout the rest of the show, but with her storyline, it becomes apparent why she is. But,
yeah. So Diane said, thinking Daniel Day-Lewis as Tom Christy, tall, stern, rigid, emaciated. And Vicky said John Proctor. Yeah, I mean, not John Proctor. John Proctor is, I think of John Proctor like I would think of Roger Wakefield, how Roger should be: tall, handsome, rugged, stoic, some of those other things. And
John Proctor.
He's from The Crucible.
The Crucible, yeah.
The one who he's accused of witchcraft by Abigail. But anyway, so I think that more of, Reverend Paris. And if you're talking about Crucible characters, in my mind, I'm thinking Christy should be Paris. He should be corruptible, but also very, very legalistic. And that's not what I'm seeing. I'm seeing more like, I do this just for the position it provides me.
Oh, absolutely. Right. That's what I got. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think that it was all about him and position. He wasn't like believing the religious stuff. It was just like, I get to eat lunch with the person in the prison, and also like I'm in charge of these fisher folk. I'm in charge of these children, you know.
And men are very much drawn, certain types of men are very much drawn to the power structures of religion, just because it allows them to continue to have power over women and children and other men in their area. So it makes perfect sense for him to keep up the charade, like with these people that he's taking with him to the Americas. I just don't buy it for whatever reason. But let's talk about somebody else, and let's talk about James. Let's talk about Bree and Roger for a minute, because I forgot they were in this show. And when they popped,
why?
And when they popped up, I was like, meh. They're very boring. They're very boring.
They are.
And she's not pregnant again. And I know everybody said Mandy's going to be born, so she's going to get pregnant again. But that's not happening. And isn't Roger supposed to be not able to speak?
Yes. Yeah, but they're
not doing that.
No.
Of course not, because how would they?
Last season, right? Yeah. So.
Yeah. Okay. I forgot that he healed himself last season, I guess, or he got healed. I missed all that. I was
so much vocal therapy.
Roger. But it actually in the books goes on like the whole time, right? He never really.
Oh, yeah. Book 9, it's still going on. His voice is ruined. Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's something we should have adapted. It would have been.
I have to say though, the one thing that I did super like about this episode is Tom Christy shows up and Jamie's not there, and Roger's like, "Oh, I invited him because he was one of your Ardsmuir guys." Like, and Jamie's like,
Thanks, bitch.
It was honestly, to me, like, I was like, oh, this is like a funny, like, I enjoyed that part a lot, actually. I thought, like, I was like, oh, Roger, you moron. You know, I thought it was great.
I really wanted them to lean in a little bit more to it. Like, it was good. I liked that they did that, and I think it was the right thing to do, but I wanted a little bit more, Jamie kind of giving him shit for it, or at least Roger recognizing that he should be getting shit for it.
Right.
So, lean a little harder into Roger fucking up, please. Thank you. But I just find them super boring. Brianna's conversation with Claire was shoehorned in the most awkward way possible. She just looks right at her and she's like, I really hope you're taking care of your heart and your spirit
Uh-huh.
and taking care of you. Is it self-love?
There
And I was
was
like,
a time when me saying I'm fine, would be looked at. And I'm like, shouldn't you still be kind of traumatized yourself?
yeah.
I mean, it's kind of quick turnaround. It's a very
They were
quick
just
turnaround.
it just didn't it was shoehorned in. I mean, I know that sometimes we have awkward conversations with the people that we love just because we're finally alone with them and it's on our minds and you just have to be like, are you doing okay? That kind of thing. But I would have preferred it be something that they were having like a quiet moment over tea at night by the fire, or, like something, they remember something about Frank and they just start talking about their own, like where they are and what's going on with them as mother and daughter, instead of it just being shoehorned in. And of course, I didn't like Sophie's delivery. I thought it was just bland and boring. So there's that.
Yeah. Can't disagree with you.
Yeah.
I just don't think the stuff that they give them is any good either, though. I'm not even going to entirely blame. I mean, look, I don't think Sophie's great, but I'm not going to blame them because I think the way they've written Roger is absolute trash. I think he could be doing better given better material and maybe better direction. Like I think she, having been on this show since season 2,
Mm-hmm.
season 2, come on, man. You've had all these directors. None of them have been able to get something better out of you. Like, I mean, maybe that just, I don't know. I blame the director half the time, more than half the time, really. I'm like, come on.
Yeah, especially for Sophie and Roger. Like a lot of times it's just, again, they shoehorned it in while Claire's busy doing something at her surgery, this like important conversation between mother and daughter. And then they didn't give Claire anything to respond with. There's nothing really for her to work off of, which I think is unfortunate. I just wanted to address RZ really quickly. You all seem to hate the show, so why bother with this recap? I won't next week. Okay.
I don't hate it, but whatever. Like, I mean,
I'm
sorry, I don't.
At this point, I am hate watching, but in a loving way.
It's weird because I critique it pretty heavily because I expect better, and I want better for it. And watching it, I don't hate while I'm watching it. I'm not like hating the show while I'm watching it, but because I'm so close to it, I see all of the things that I think should be different and better. And a lot of times I don't appreciate it for some of the work that they've done. I'll fully own that. There have been plenty of times where I have not appreciated some of the hard work that went into it or some of the good adaptive things that they've done because I'm too close to what I think it should be. And I want it to be the best it can be. So I'm not like, I fully own that, but I talk about it because there's a bunch of people here talking about it with us and we enjoy it. So
listen, I actually expected to come on in all seriousness. I actually expected to come on saying, hey, it was actually not that bad.
No, that's how I feel.
Than I expected. This
episode
was better than I expected. And I actually enjoyed watching it. There were things that we still will discuss that, I was kind of like, oh crap. But, all in all, for what Outlander has become, I thought this particular episode was not bad.
I agree.
And I actually think the fact that we were all like, we're all like ticked about the Fergus stuff, mostly because like we have grown to really like that character, and we like both Lauren Lyle and I forget the actors.
Cesar.
Yeah. And I think we like both of them and we like those characters, and like I think that's investment when we're like, oh God, no, Fergus is drunk and like, yeah, So anyway.
And I mean, honestly, I'm he did a great job. I mean, I'm not in any way like Fergus's storyline, I think is going to be good just because I think he's doing a great job. I'm glad that he's got something to work with, which is being very,
Well,
very
yeah.
drunk and angry. That's going to be great for him. I don't have a problem with that at all. And
I
when I
mean,
think about the things I have a problem with, it's like the house is too big, the villains are cartoonish, and Jamie's hair is terrible.
Jamie's hair is terrible.
And then of course we have the main thing we're going to talk about, which we'll get to at the end, which is the ether. But
now I will say though, with Fergus and Marsali, we've only ever seen them being loving and caring and just like, you know, kind of like uplifting everybody. I actually like the idea that they're going to have to work through something, a crisis this season. I think that's pretty, you know, decent. Everyone has, you know, I guess the angst and the drama has to be spread around to everyone. It can't just be Roger and Bree or Claire and Jamie all the time. You know,
I just wish Roger and Bree had good drama. They don't have good drama. Like what? All their writing is garbage. Like everything they do for them,
I agree.
They really needed to do a little bit more to adapt some of their stuff and change it from the books because it's just not different enough to be cool. And anyway.
Yeah,
whatever.
Marsali has gotten a lot of really good like stuff she can sink her teeth into. She gets to kill Lionel Brown last season, like even just and the stuff I think with Fergus this season is going to be really good. She's not static. And Bree, you know, Bree gets to kill a buffalo and try to go back to the Stones and forgive Stephen Bonnet. Yeah, I mean, it's just a different level of what she can what would they expect of her as a character, what they expect of her as a woman in that time frame. Like when they're talking about her inventions, number one, don't use that word. That just doesn't that's not what she's doing. She's not inventing things. She's just like engineering some things that she already knows exist in the world. And it sounded weird for Claire to call them inventions, but like she's got this thing that she can do, but she's not focused on it. Anytime they actually focus on her, she's just like getting food for somebody, you know.
She is never engineering. That is so disappointing. You know, you would like to see her with a hammer, you know, maybe with some drawing paper, you know, kind of like sketching out a blueprint or something, you know, discussing it with the men, with Jamie and everything. She's never doing that.
Right.
Yeah. If they put her, that would be a really cool role for her. Like she does it in the books a lot more where she like inserts herself with the men a lot.
Yeah.
And she doesn't do any of that in the show. And that's super disappointing. If they did more of that with her, I think I would like her a lot better.
Yeah. And they're managing it a little bit by Claire telling her to be careful because of the time and everything, and men seeing her doing all of these things or creating anything that they're going to think is witchcraft or they're going to give her shit for or whatever. And I understand that, but don't tell us that that's the case. Show us that that's the case by having Bree start doing things that then cause eyebrows to raise or whatever.
I mean, I think in the book at some point she tries to or she builds an underground kennel. I mean, they could have her, you know, digging out and having Roger dig out, you know, this big underground kennel on all of that land that apparently the Frasers have, you know, to try to get, you know, going what she's trying to get going with these pipes and things like that. I mean, that at least gives her something, you know, something for us to look at her doing, something interesting.
It seems like she's always just wandering around until it's time to do some household chore. She needs to bring something to her mother. She needs to make something for the babies or for her husband. And, it's time to, you know, make candles. There's plenty of women apparently living in the big house or living close enough to it where that's not what Bree would be spending her time doing. And it's frustrating that she is. I'd rather see her in the background digging a well or whatever it is she's going to do.
They didn't even show her playing with that phosphorus.
Right.
And
why talk about it and not,
you know, to make matches? They didn't even show her being interested or playing with that or asking her mom, you know, could I have some or, you know,
but they're
thinking about doing this.
They're apparently going to, like you see in that she does make matches. It's in the credits or it's in the show titles or whatever. So she's going to do the phosphorus stuff, but like they just, I guess, are telling us that it's upcoming instead of just showing us that it's a thing that they're doing. I want to talk really quickly about Jamie and Claire. I thought they were sweet in this episode some of the time. I really like that he is that she's asking him, like, are you going to be my shadow from here on out? Can I not go anywhere without you? And he's like, nope, you're just going to hang out. We're going to be like glue. Like, that's the kind of Jamie and Claire stuff I enjoy. I don't want her going off by herself because she gets into trouble. I want them to be together. So that I'm happy with. And I like that he was looking at her just being like, I like looking at you. That's sweet.
Yeah, I fast forwarded through the sex. I'm like, I'm over it.
Oh, no.
I'm so over it.
No, I can't. Go ahead, Andy.
Here was my problem with the sex. If Claire, and we're getting to the ether, I'm sorry, I'm bringing us there. If Claire's so traumatized by her rape that she is drugging herself with ether, that sex scene was wrong. I don't buy that a traumatized woman who cannot recover from a sexual assault without drugging herself would have that. Maybe if they had started to have sex and she had started flashing and said, I'm sorry, we have to stop, I would have bought it. But yeah, well, Ashley just said that flashback sequence should have happened during the sex scene. I would have bought that big time. And then her drugging herself with the ether, I would have bought it. But I'm sorry, I didn't like it. I hated it.
I buy that a woman can have PTSD, that she can be highly traumatized by an event like that, and with a man that she feels safe with still be intimate. I buy that. I think that sex with the person that you're in love with is a different thing than being triggered by the trauma. And I'm not saying that that's the case for everybody. I'm just saying, like, I buy that it's possible. What I don't necessarily buy is the horrible pillow talk. Like I get that she might want to be close to Jamie. I don't get necessarily that she would want to be sexy with Jamie. Like, would an angel do this? Absolutely not. An angel would not say that or do that. Horrible. I don't know how they get through that without laughing. But I did want to put in everybody's thoughts about sex. Alicia first said, Alicia, please tell me if it's Alicia or Alicia, because I say Alicia, but sometimes I say Alicia because I think I'm doing it wrong. Anyway, Jamie has lost his stamina with old age. He could barely thrust his hips up. He didn't even put his knees up to give her anything to hang on to. It was terrible. Ashley just said that sexy scene, it need to be less is more. This was the worst one. It was not my least favorite sex scene. I have disliked many a Jamie and Claire sex scene. I just rolled my eyes at this one because of the pillow talk. This is my favorite comment. No one came. Absolutely not. Nobody did. Dawn, was anyone else bothered by Claire being on top again? I can't blame it on Jamie's back makeup because they showed her touch his back afterward. This does not bother me. I wish that we didn't see them have sex. That's all I feel like saying.
Honestly, all the heavy breathing, I'm just so over it. I mean, my God. I mean,
did you
the
see
heavy breathing? I just don't get it.
Did you see that as part of his producer duties, Sam brought on an intimacy coordinator?
No, I did not. I did not.
Yes, he spoke about it, how he thought it was important, and they brought on an intimacy coordinator. And I thought to myself, if that sex scene had the intimacy coordinator, I think you should find a different one because it wasn't sexy at all.
Wow. Wowee.
Yeah.
Interesting. He was having real trouble with his arm. He was putting his arm back so that he could get some leverage, and he was not hitting it. And I just thought to myself, this is a normal position. How do you not have experience in this position?
I mean, think about this sex scene and think about the wedding night.
I mean, the wedding night is meant to be incredibly sensual. I get it. Like I don't want the wedding night every time they have sex on screen. What I would prefer are the scenes like this was in season 1, I believe, when Myrta walks in and he's going down on her and it's like in medias res and it's really hot and yet like makes perfect sense. I don't like the full, let's have a chat, let's do a little foreplay, let's do some weird pillow talk, and then let's like orgasm. The whole shebang or not. The whole shebang is what they do every single time now.
Yeah.
And it is tired.
Yeah.
It is so tired. Give us something that alludes to the fact that they're being intimate with each other. Let them be intimate verbally while they're sipping whiskey by the fire, and then just see them look at each other and walk to the bed. Why are we seeing the same pattern? Now I get you get married and you get into your patterns and you have sex the same way all the time, but it's not compelling in a sexual way or a sensual way, and it's not compelling in a storytelling way. So we're noticing that Claire would probably not want to be that intimate with him at this particular point, but they're thinking, no, we've got to shoehorn in a sex scene between Jamie and Claire. The fans are going to go nuts that they didn't get it in a premiere episode.
Yep.
And they could have given us something that was nicer and more sensual and more intimate. Like I think the one in the window last season was okay. But things like that, where he could like come up behind her and put his arms around her while she's having, a moment to herself and just start kissing her neck and then draw her to bed. But don't give us the same tired conversation, leads to foreplay, leads to weird pillow talk, it's the same thing over and over again. It's boring.
Diane had a fabulous suggestion.
What's that?
About the scar. She said if the scar had been there, Claire's scar from there was got to be something with the
Browns.
Yeah. What's the next comment? If like they had done something with that, like she had the scar and then like he had he had touched it and been like, I'm sad for this, and that could have been a whole nice moment,
I don't remember what the scar is.
I don't. She had some sort of like wound, didn't she, from the Browns?
I don't remember.
Did she? I remember her getting the scratch on her arm.
Explain yourself, Diane. Come back.
Yeah. Which scar are we talking about?
I don't know. But so Diane also said, how long has it been since the attack? Actor said it's only been a few months after season 5, and it needed to feel as if this is the first time since the attack. I didn't feel that way. It didn't seem to me like it would have been the first time since the attack. And I don't want to see their first time from the attack. No. I don't want to see them have sex at all, really. But like, I didn't mind kind of, I don't know. I wasn't thinking about her PTSD. I'll put it that way. But I did like the fact that she does have a flashback post the sex scene, right? She does have a nightmare with all of these things in it. Dougal and, Blackjack, and just so much going on in her mind post that. So I think that was accurate. I do think that it would make sense for her to want to be intimate with Jamie. It would make sense for her want to be close to him, to be comforted by him, and to comfort him at the same time. But I think that sex would have been less breathy and cheesy and would an angel do this kind of. I don't think she'd be into that. I think she'd just be into like, hold me, fuck me. Let's get,
Right. Yep.
Let's get comfort out of each other. And then Purely said they had sex at the end of last season. I don't remember that. All I remember is her looking out the porch with bruises on her face. And Diane says she has a deep wound over her breast. She took the blood and smeared one of her attackers. Well, I did read that scene in Breath of Snow and Ashes because I knew it was going to come up from season 6. I did read through all of that, but I don't remember that. But I don't disagree with you that that's the case. And Vicky said they for sure thought that they had to put the sex in the season premiere because that's the viewers want it and require it. And they'd be up in arms if there wasn't a sex scene, which is ridiculous. And Kendra just said, I'm glad we didn't get the just in case you're knocked up, we must bang. We talked about that last season. We were so thankful that was not in the script at all because I hate that line. And Purely says they show the aftermath and he called her a brave wee thing. I think I do sort of remember that. But yeah, that's my commentary on the sex scenes. Like they're just boring. They're rote. They're embarrassing.
Yeah, they are.
And they could be a lot better. That the morning wake up, oral scene from season 1 is so well done. And there's some even that are in season 2 that that are good because it's less is more. I remember everybody being so mad because there's this one time when they're in France where he picks her up and takes her to bed, and then it literally fades to black on his shoulders over her, and everybody was like, I can't believe we didn't get more. And I was like, that was great. That was such a great scene. He picks her up, he grabs her ass, he takes her to bed, and then fade to black. It was great. Like, why do you need all of it every time? And their breathiness and their faces are so dumb. Like, you just don't need it. It's so awful. Ugh. Okay, so Claire apparently felt like she didn't need it either because she gets up from this nightmare and can't calm down, and she goes to the ether still and self-medicates. And this was kind of the topic du jour, I thought, when I was just kind of looking at Twitter today, what people have been talking about since it aired. And I'd like to know what everybody thinks about it in the chat, but what did you guys think?
So the thing, I could not figure out why this shit bothered me so much. At first I thought Michael Jackson, you know? But then I realized, and Purely Muse actually answered me back, you know, replied to my tweet about it. It was the cider house rules thing.
Yeah.
You know, it took me a minute to like, oh yeah, that's what happened to the doctor in the cider house rules. That's why this shit, you know, just weirds me the fuck out. So yeah, that's what I think of when I see it. And I think of people who are trying to self-medicate that overdose.
Right.
You know, that's what I think of. So I don't particularly like it. I understand other people saying that it doesn't bother them as much and they're cool with it and everything. I don't know. It kind of makes me a little,
Well, I think that the way that they portrayed it in this episode makes it look like Claire is going to potentially overdose. The first moment that we see her is Jamie rushing in and thinking she is dead because she has done this, and she is so shallowly breathing and not hearing him walk in. And then for her to do the same thing at the end of the episode, and either that little contraption, that mouth thing, which I'm sure
is amazing. Did Brie make that?
Yeah, it's very nice leather work on that. But that, again, the cider house rules doctor, if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, it's like Michael Caine, and he self-medicates with ether, and he ends up overdosing and killing himself with one of these like mesh things. And it looks, because it's an anesthetic, you literally don't know that it's not going to stay on your face. And she, you know, she barely turns her face and it falls to the side, but it could have not fallen off. And she could have, you know, continued to breathe in those fumes or had too much or whatever. And so it does kind of, in a, you know, Chekhov's gun kind of way, make it look like this is something we're going to have to deal with Claire in the future. And if you weren't 100% assured that Claire is going to survive just because it's Claire's show, it would be something that the audience would have to be worried about. And that's why I think people felt fairly uncomfortable with it, because it's not her trajectory. So instead, she's just going to look like a drug addict. It's really weird.
Right. And out of character. It's so out of character for her. You know, no, she does go through the PTSD. She does know that she has to work through it. She, you know, is wife to a man who has been raped. She's mother to a daughter who has been raped. So she knows that she's going to have to work herself, you know, through the whole process. But she's able to do it by talking and maybe, I don't know, meditating or, you know, trying to reach her higher power and everything. Never is she the type that would do this. So for them to kind of bring it in also is kind of like another, I don't know, just thing that they try to do to make it work. And it's just so out of character for her.
Purely says she doesn't think it's in character either. Claire would likely work harder to gain control of something like that and shut down around family. And then Alicia said, I liked the self-medicating, and the reason is because they haven't done enough to deal with Claire's trauma. I don't like the ether. For starters, wouldn't the house have smelled it? We'll talk about the ether in just a second. Ashley just says, even if she would have hesitated, shown the conflict of knowing its potential consequences, Kat can do that with her eyes alone as an actor. There's no demons winning moment. Allison, it seems kind of out of character for Serge and Claire to be so careless, but obviously they're trying to show how traumatized she is. Diane says demons winning, I think happened when she looked in the mirror. Way too subtle, perhaps. Maybe. I think when she looked in the mirror, I think she knew exactly what she was going to go do. Or she knew that she wanted to do it at the very least. Vicky also agrees that it's out of character. Meredith says that's her issue. The ether itself is so dangerous. She wouldn't risk hurting someone else. So this is what I wanted to talk about, because I think it's perfectly fine. And Amy was supposed to be here with us tonight, but she's not feeling well. She wanted us to know that she thinks Claire self-medicating is fine. I agree. I think it's potentially within the scope of her character for her to want to self-medicate and need to. Mainly because she doesn't get a lot of self-care at all. You know, she's there with Jamie, but the amount that she's doing and all of the stress or whatever, I get it. So that made sense to me, that she's got trauma that she doesn't know how to deal with elsewise, and she just kind of wants to calm her mind, especially because they gave us this horrible traumatic flashback nightmare that she had. It didn't just come out of nowhere. They gave us like what's going on in her brain. The problem is the ether and its low boiling point and the candles around it. Like, ether is ridiculously flammable. It has one of the lowest boiling points of any substance. And she's just open flaming it all over the place.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
The fumes alone in the surgery with that much in the distillery is dangerous. She should have it. It should be outside. Mm-hmm. It should not be inside her surgery. That is completely insane. And for people that care about production and they care about being correct about all of this stuff, how in the world does she have an ether distillery in that tiny surgery with all of those open flames? It's bonkers.
And not showing us that she's opening or raising the windows or whatever, you know, no ventilation, no nothing.
She's got a Bunsen burner going underneath it. It's bonkers.
I was sad too. Like, that was like a big deal, her making the ether and like the getting the glass right to distill the thing. And I mean, I get it. Got to get right too, Claire doping herself. But like, I don't know. I think those are fun moments. Like, that's the kind of like fun Claire experiment stuff that I like. You know, like she could have like been dicking around with that with Brianna. And then Brianna was like, what you doing? I'm like, she must have been doing it for months. And you're like, what you doing? Like,
yeah,
doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, I get that they want to jump in, you know, in the middle of things and show that she's done this thing. And so having Brianna be like, what's this, Mom? Is like, Brianna's the only person she can talk to about it, I guess, maybe. I don't know. But
well, do y'all think that they're going to like make this a running theme for the entire season?
And because it's another thing that I read. I was like, let me just hear, because it was Diana Gabaldon was like, I thought it was a good change. Everybody needed to like, they like ran screaming to Diana. It was like,
oh, everybody goes and tells mommy that something's
like
not right.
She didn't know. Anyway, so she was saying that she actually approved the change and she liked it because it was like a way of Claire like working through her trauma, and that she said something, there was like one sentence that it was going to be like Claire struggling with, I guess, an addiction to it would be kind of the thing.
I think that people are going to hate that. I don't hate that. At least it's Claire doing something else new. And I mean, Claire's not always like making great decisions. Usually they involve other people. This seems to just involve her, but she's not really great at being like the best decision maker. But the ether thing inside the house is really just a production problem. And I am gobsmacked by how stupid it is. Meredith said she kept it going when she went under. Yeah, the flames were still like totally just jiving along and she was out. And that's the thing too, is that she wouldn't be doing that and putting everybody else at risk. And yet, isn't this just giant foreshadowing of the big house blowing up?
I gotta think that that's what it is also.
I mean, I don't remember how it like catches on
It's
fire.
due to the ether. It's due to the ether and the matches. Yeah.
They
Okay,
break.
so
Yeah, they break one of the big things of ether. They're like smashy, smash, smash, and then they go light a match. Which, you know, like, I mean, I guess that's gonna happen like later. Like they'll be like somebody like Lizzie or Bree or Malva kind of being like, ooh, look, like, and taking the candle close, and you know, Claire's gonna be like, don't do that, it's so flammable. Dun dun dun. You know, just to like get us ready for when it makes the whole house explode.
But the fact that this episode, every time you saw the still with the ether, there was fire near it.
There was fire.
Yeah.
So it's not going to make any sense for her to suddenly like have a safety meeting about it. She's not going to get Dwight Schrute on it when she's been like going hog wild Michael Scott on it this whole time. That's so bizarre. Yeah, I don't get it. Ian lights a match. Well, okay. I mean, whatever. So Alicia just asked, are they going to bring the 20th century Native American in? I thought that they kind of got rid of that in season 4. Like, didn't they kind of remember that guy?
For me.
Oh, Wendigo Donner.
Did he come in season? I couldn't remember if we had seen him or not in the show.
She finds the
We
skull
did.
and
She finds the skull, and didn't she meet some guy? She met a guy when she got abducted, and he was like, what are you doing here, man? Like, he called her like man. He was like a real hippie.
Okay.
But he disappeared, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you know, he supposedly comes back, you know, a couple of times, so maybe.
Okay. Well, Alicia just said he's the reason that everything gets smashed.
Yeah.
Yeah, he comes back looking for stuff.
Stones.
Jewels. Stones.
Okay. Well, I mean, I can't tell if we're talking about the book or the show. Was he there when she gets attacked by the Browns?
Yes.
Yes.
In the book or in the show?
In the book.
Show. And the show.
Oh, I don't remember him being there in the show.
I don't remember.
I'm sort of asking. I could swear that there was someone there in the show. And Joni's saying, was Wendigo shown in the recap? He should have been.
Okay, Jewel Thief says both, and she's been correct, so I'm going to go with thank you.
Thanks, Jewel Thief.
Thank you, Jewel Thief. But yeah, I don't.
I should have rewatched some episodes, but that episode in particular,
I am not rewatching that episode.
Way too much. It's too much for me. I can't.
No, I don't need to see it. All that 60s stuff, like, it was pretty when we watched it, but also like enough, you know. I wouldn't watch it again.
I understood, and especially after speaking with y'all, I understood why they did it. But at the time, I didn't care for it, and it's just not my thing. I don't.
Weirdly, I actually really liked it, and that song like really stuck in my head. I like listened to it several times since. I was like, actually, I kind of like this song. It's kind of a bop. But the episode is just too traumatic. Even with that like device to distance you from it, it's too much for me.
Like season 1, 15 and 16, I watched them both, I guess maybe twice when they originally came out, and then I had to watch it again to recap it and I like have never watched it again.
No.
And can't imagine ever turning them on and watching them again. That's how I feel about that one. I do think that the device that they used at that was great, but I didn't even write a recap in that final episode. I just wrote about Outlander's problem with sexual assault. So if you want to look that up, Outlander and the problem of sexual assault, the cool table, Google it. It's the best thing I've ever written.
Oh, guys, what did you think of the new opening?
Hated it.
The music. You hated it.
I did hate it. Yes.
I didn't like it either.
I was wondering what you thought of it as a singer and a music person. I wanted to know what you thought of it.
So I actually liked it better than that trash choral arrangement. And I am sorry, I will die on this hill. There is one article that I wrote that has gotten more play than anything I've ever written. And that is me eviscerating this. I actually like notated rhythms. My friend and I like notated the rhythms. So what are the rhythms here? What is the meter? I just had so many objections. And then like doubling the octave up. Anyway, it was trash. I hated
Yeah,
it.
I remember.
So anything would be better than that. And I have to say, I actually quite liked it. Like when they duet, the harmonies are quite intriguing. And I'm like, I don't dislike this. Like,
I
I don't understand why a man starts it.
Yeah.
But like when they start duetting, I'm like, oh, I quite like the harmony.
I thought the harmony was interesting because it's not generally what you would want to hear or what you would go
Right.
to. So I did like that, but I did not think that their voices meshed well together. And I didn't like
I
him
agree.
opening. I didn't like the way he opened the song. I don't mind it opening with a man. I thought his voice was too harsh and too
I
like
think
barreling in to the melody at the beginning of the song for something that's
I
usually
think it
so
was his
ethereal.
voice. I think it was his voice. I think that's what I didn't like about it. I also did not mind the harmony with them together as much, but overall, I just didn't care for it. No.
Yeah, I was like, what is happening? I just think his voice was too like I said, it just barreled in. And normally that song starts out super ethereal. And I just didn't get why we were hearing something barrel into that song. But I did like it okay, I guess.
Why do you guys think they started with a man's voice?
I don't know.
Vicky, are you lying? Put that up, Beth. Is she lying?
No, this has to be a joke.
It's got to be a joke.
The
Vicky.
last thing she said was the man's voice was strangely lacking, and then she said, "Fun fact: it was Matthew B. Roberts singing." If it is, I will go. I will. I'm resigning. I'll never talk about this show again. Never. That is ridiculous.
Listen, I really wanted to say, because I know we're kind of getting toward the end.
We are.
I pray to God they do something more with Ian. Him being so dour and just all the time. That is not young Ian. That is not. So while he is sad, while he is a little more mature, he still has a very good wit and kind of a sense of humor. And I miss that. I really miss that. I need them to get it together for him. I really do.
And like I love his relationship with Jamie, and I feel like that's not like completely non-existent.
And where is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
he's my favorite. He's my favorite character. My favorite character in the books. Although book 9, sorry, I wish we got to finish that Hangoutlander on book 9 because I read the second half. And I have to say, stuff actually happened in the second half. Like the beginning of book 9, I'm like, nothing happens in this book. And then at the end, I was like, whoa, so much stuff happened. So anyway.
I don't believe you. I don't believe you.
That stuff actually happened.
All right.
It was wild.
And
all right,
Alicia, she's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, you guys.
As well.
So this was the premiere of Outlander season 6. And we were very happy that you joined us. I can't believe we went this long, even though I can. And look, guys, I am not like resigning ourselves to doing this every week. To be quite frank, I don't want to, although I love talking to all of you. I might. My only issue is Bridgerton is coming up in 2-3 weeks, and I far more want to talk about Bridgerton than I do about Outlander, and we only have so many hours in the day. So stick around with us and talk about Bridgerton instead, because that trailer dropped today, and I was beside myself, and I'd much rather have been talking for an hour and a half about how excited I am about Bridgerton.
But also, I enjoyed talking about Outlander.
Yes, I do too. It's one of those things that I could talk about for days and days and days. And people like RZ can come in and tell us that, why do we hate it so much? But, there's plenty of people that feel the way that we feel. And I love talking to every single one of you. Mm-hmm. So you guys keep an eye out for Bingerton, which is the hashtag that we use when we're doing Bridgerton talks. We're probably going to be doing one on March the 19th, which is a Saturday, kind of a pre-Bridgerton season 2 show. And we'll talk about what we're expecting. And I hope that you guys will be there. And maybe we'll be here next week talking about Outlander. Maybe. Only if Lachey and Andy are both coming.
I'm coming.
All right. Thank you guys. We will see you soon. Bye.
Bye.